Bladenboro. Folks remember the winter of 53 and 54 for the cold, the headlines, and the animals found bled dry. I came to Bladenboro to see if the beast was gone or just patient. A southern cemetery man spends one long, freezing night following fresh tracks through pine flatwoods and sand roads near Bladenboro, North Carolina. What he finds is older than any rumor, hungrier than any bobcat, and closer to home than any newspaper ever printed. Chapter 1. The Town That Still Listens. Bladenboro sits low, where longleaf pines whisper and the Lumber River moves like dark tea. Folks still talk about that winter, December 1953 into January of 1954, when something started hitting people's goats, dogs, and even their pigs and leaving them laid out wrong. Heads crushed, no tracks that made sense, and the blood, well, there wasn't any. Papers called it a vampire. Locals called it a cat. Never proved a thing. I parked near a sandy cut-through road, not much more than 2 ruts and a prayer. Frost was already making lace on the ditch grass. I wasn't here to chase fame. I was here to decide if the night sounds told the truth better than a headline. I carry 3 things for work: a notebook, a lantern, and a verse to steady my hands. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. That valley can be a graveyard or a pine stand. Either way, you walk it honest. Chapter 2. Old Prince, New Cold. I started on the edge of the pasture that ran into the pines. My breath came white. The ground was sandy with a dusting of frost. That's when I saw them. Prints as big as a man's palm. Rounded pads, claw marks faint, or none at all. Cat tracks, not dog, fresh. Somebody had run a wire long ago from the barn to a bell out back, a safety bell. I've seen them in graveyards too. For those old fears of waking too soon, the bell rope was gone, but the bracket still swung in the breeze. I followed the prints along the fence line till the wire sagged low and something had gone under without touching it. The grass there was mashed and wet. The woods ahead had that piney hush you only get before a thing moves. I kept on, counting the steps without knowing why. 57, 58, 59, and a sound like a sob cut off with teeth. Chapter 3. Ain't Dell's Porch Light. Before the sun dipped, I paid a visit to a lady named Dell, Ain't Dell to half the county, who remembered. 54 was clear as a hymn. Her porch light throws a good circle. Inside, every picture frame holds someone who kept a promise. She poured coffee you could stand a spoon in and said, "They'll say cougar, they'll say dog, they'll say hoax. I heard it scream. Have you ever heard a cat call your own name?" she asked. And the way she said cat made the word longer, like a road. When the men formed the hunt, she said, it wasn't the rifles that ruined it, it was the pride. That thing didn't run from rifles, it ran from noise. It knows sound like we know faces. She tapped my notebook. Don't write the beast down like a tally. Treat it like weather. It comes, it goes, but it ain't gone. Out on the fence now, with tracks in front of me and Aunt Dell's words behind me, I felt watched the way a field feels watched by a hawk. Chapter 4. The Dog That Wouldn't Bark. I came past a small house set back in the pines. A hound lay on the porch boards, big, scarred, and tired. He looked at me and thumped his tail once, like we had an agreement not to spook the night. No bark in him. Don't blame him a bit. Behind the shed, I found a sign. Feathers first, then something worse. A chicken, laid delicate on the ground in a way dead things don't usually look. No torn up mess, just wrong. Neck crushed, little wetness at the beak, not much else. I ain't a forensics man, but I've cleaned deer and I've seen dog work and cat work. Dogs are sloppy, cats are surgeons. This looked like a surgeon with no bedside manner. The hound stood, ears tilting, nostrils flaring. He made that tiny whine dogs make when the air lets them know they're not the biggest thing in it. I tipped my cap to him. You did right, I said, barely a whisper. Living to warn somebody counts. Chapter 5. The Lumber River Edge. The tracks led me down to the lumber, dark and quiet, the kind of water that remembers boats and whispered plans. Cypress knees poked up like old knuckles. The moon hung thin as a shaving. I came upon a sandbar where the prints crossed with another set, smaller, lighter, a pair of feet that didn't weigh enough to be grown. Children? No, the gait was wrong. It was careful. I've seen careful walks. They're made by folks who know they might not be alone. Every fourth step, a pause. Every pause, a scuff, like someone turned to listen. Off in the trees, a sound lifted, half scream, half laugh. You know right away why folks bet on a panther when they don't know what else to call it. It wasn't loud enough, as so much as it was thin. The hairs on my arms chose the upright life. The lantern hissed like it had thoughts on the matter. Something moved on the opposite bank, low and smooth. Eyes? Maybe. A twitch of pale between black trunks. Maybe. I held still, the way you do at a graveside when the wind comes up and the oak branches misbehave. I don't run at things like that. I let them announce themselves. It slipped away without deciding on me. The river swallowed the ripple and gave back nothing. Chapter 6. Tracks circled back. Past midnight, the woods changed. Not louder, tighter. I found a tire rut that looked fresh and the stink of cheap gas. Two men talking hushed like fools do when they want it to be a secret but still be heard. I killed the lantern and listened. Shoot at anything big, one said. Paper will pay, even now. I knew that spirit. Same as back then. Line up a posse, wave guns, chase glory. That's how accidents get names on tombstones. I eased off the road and let their headlights sweep past me like I was a stump. When the light was gone, the dark had weight again. That's when I saw it. My own footprints. I'd come back to where I started without knowing it. Drawn in a figure eight by something that knew the game of loops. I wanted it to be walking with me, same ground, making the same mistakes those men made in 54. I smiled, mean at myself. Not tonight, I said. I stepped out of the path I'd worn. Chapter 7. The Barn with No Bell. The barn sat by itself, unpainted, boards slivered by years. The old safety bell was gone, but the bracket remained, a question mark against the stars. Inside, the dust held tracks: a mouse, a snake, a cat, and something heavier. I raised the lantern and I saw the shape at the far end, crouched. Yellow eyes looked at me from the level where a man's knees might be, wide and terrible and alive. The head was low, the body thick through the shoulders, tail hard to say. The eyes shut once, opened again, then the shadows did a trick I couldn't count on, and it wasn't there. I don't swear much, but what left my mouth was old and rural and to the point. I stepped forward slow, letting the lantern light lick the far wall. Boards had scratches in them, deep, long. The smell was cat, musky, rank, but clean of dog's wild panic. I knew then that we weren't going to trade any proof tonight. The beast was never a photo finish. It was a promise kept by fear. In the corner, a burlap sack moved. I tapped it with my boot, and a possum exploded by my ankle, leaving town. I laughed. The sound didn't belong here. It spooked me worse than the possum. Chapter 8. Ain't Dell's Hymn in the Freeze. I stepped out behind the barn and found the sky gone brighter, frost blooming on everything, breath made ghosts. I thought of Aunt Dell and how she'd hummed, "Nearer, my God, to Thee," when the kettle sang. I took that tune like a hand to hold and kept on. Something flanked me to the left, just inside the pines, pace for pace. When I stopped, it stopped. When I went, it went. I have walked with the dead long enough to know the manners. I turned my body a little, not straight on, not fearful either. "I know you," I said, quiet. "You're the reason men got loud back then, and you're the reason some dogs won't bark even today." Breath of air moved against my cheek like a word without language. The smell was wild and iron. The frost sparkled as if the stars had fallen and got stuck on the ground. For a heartbeat, the shape was clear. Not man, not dog. Cat by the way it flowed. Night by the way it folded back into itself. It crossed the road ahead and never once looked my way, like I didn't matter, or mattered completely. Then it was gone among the rows of the pine, like a thought you had as a child and couldn't hold on to. Chapter 9. The Hound's Mercy. On my way out, I passed the hound again. He stood at the end of the porch, as if he'd been stationed there by a captain. I reached to scratch his ear and found an old notch where time had taken a piece. "You did your job," I told him. "You lived." His eyes stayed on the tree line the whole time. He licked my wrist once, a vote of no confidence in the night. I thought about all those animals back then, the ones folks found bled out and placed like a warning. Maybe it was a big cat doing what big cats do. Maybe some of it was dogs gone half wild. Maybe people too. When fear got its hooks in them, the beast wears many coats. I left a little jerky on the porch for payment for guard duty and went on. Chapter 10. Daybreak doesn't answer questions. Daybreak in that country is soft as a quilt. The frost turns to sparkle, then to wet, then to nothing. Tracks lose their edges. Stories keep theirs. I didn't bring home a pelt or a photo that'll stand up in court. What I brought was the surety that something out there moves, older than our arguments. It kills to eat, not to star in our headlines. It steps sideways through time. 1954, last winter, tonight, as easy as a cat steps from the shade to the sun. There's a reason folks still hold the Beast Fest in Bladenboro every fall. Part fun, part memory, part warning to the children that not everything in the woods is for you. We honor what we survive, we remember what we can't explain, and we try not to shoot at noises. I turned the truck toward home. The bell bracket on that old barn caught the new sun and threw a bright coin of light across the field. Just for a second, it looked like the bell was back and ringing. Present, not present, presence is the point. I'm the grave historian. Some graves keep their secrets with stone, some keep them with paw prints in the frost. Either way, we walk careful, we tell the truth, and we leave the woods better than we found them. Closing chapter. Reflection. Scripture says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about. Not every roar belongs to hell, not every silence belongs to heaven, but vigilance is still good counsel. Walk humble, respect the land, believe what your skin tells you in the cold, and when you hear the night call your name, answer with sense. Walk the roads with me, subscribe, share this with a friend who hunts, and leave your own Bladenboro tale down in the comments. I read every one.